Close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Tonight, we're going to explore the shadows of sleep, the dark truths that live in the hours when consciousness fades and dreams take over. These aren't nightmares to fear, but mysteries to understand. Let these facts drift over you like fog. There's comfort in knowing what happens when you surrender to the night. Fact 1. Sleep paralysis. Let's begin in that terrifying space between waking and sleeping. Sleep paralysis happens when your mind wakes up, but your body remains frozen in the paralysis that prevents you from acting out dreams. You're conscious, but you cannot move, cannot speak, cannot scream. What makes this darker is how common it is. Nearly 8% of people experience it regularly, and during these episodes, many report a presence in the room, a shadow figure, a weight on their chest. Your brain, caught between states of consciousness, creates hallucinations that feel absolutely real. You're awake, paralyzed, and haunted by your own mind's creation, and there's nothing you can do but wait for it to pass. Fact 2. Fatal familial insomnia. There exists a rare genetic condition where sleep becomes impossible. Fatal familial insomnia is a prion disease that destroys the brain's ability to sleep. It begins with simple insomnia, then progresses to total sleeplessness. No medication works. No intervention helps. The person remains awake continuously for months, while their mind deteriorates. Hallucinations consume them. Their body wastes away, and eventually the lack of sleep kills them. It takes about 18 months from onset to death. This disease reveals a terrifying truth. Sleep isn't optional. You cannot survive without it. Your body will literally die if forced to remain conscious indefinitely. Sleep is as necessary as breathing, and without it, you are already dying. Fact 3. Dream amnesia. You dream every night, multiple times. Rich, complex narratives unfold in your sleeping mind, and then vanish. Within 5 minutes of waking, you forget 50% of your dreams. Within 10 minutes, 90% is gone. This is dream amnesia, and it means you're living entire alternate lives every night that you'll never remember. Adventures, conversations, emotions, experiences, all erased. Your sleeping self has memories your waking self will never access. You are two people sharing one body, and they barely know each other. Every morning, you wake up having lost hours of experience that felt completely real while you were living it. Your nights are a void of forgotten existence. Fact 4. Microsleeps. When you're sleep-deprived, your brain takes sleep by force. Microsleeps are brief episodes lasting just a few seconds where your brain shuts down even while you're technically awake. Your eyes might be open. You might be driving, walking, working, but you're not conscious. You're asleep and you don't even know it happened. These gaps in consciousness are invisible to you. Time simply skips forward. What's terrifying is that microsleeps can occur during any activity. People have died in car accidents during microsleeps lasting 3 seconds. Your brain will take the sleep it needs, whether you grant permission or not, and you'll never see it coming. Fact 5. The third of life lost. You will spend approximately 1/3 of your life asleep. If you live to 80, you'll sleep for nearly 27 years. But here's what's unsettling. You have no conscious memory of that time. Decades of your existence simply gone, not experienced in any way you can recall. You cease to exist for 8 hours every day and you accept this as normal. Imagine if someone told you they'd erase 1/3 of your life from memory. You'd be horrified. Yet every night you willingly enter oblivion. You surrender consciousness, lose time you'll never get back, and wake up having aged without living. Sleep is a small death you practice nightly. Fact 6. REM sleep behavior disorder. Normally, during REM sleep, your body is paralyzed to prevent you from acting out dreams. But some people lack this protection. REM sleep behavior disorder means the paralysis fails, and dreamers physically act out their dreams. They punch, kick, run, scream. They've injured themselves and their partners. They've jumped through windows, attacked loved ones, all while completely asleep. And when they wake, they often have no memory of what they've done. What's dark about this is the implication. Your dreams contain violence you're not aware of, aggression you never consciously feel. Every night, your sleeping mind might be rehearsing scenarios of conflict and harm. The only thing protecting those around you is a biological safety switch that, in some people, doesn't work. Fact 7. Sleep debt accumulation. You cannot catch up on lost sleep. This is one of the darkest truths about sleep deprivation. Sleep debt accumulates like financial debt, but unlike money, you can't fully repay it. Miss an hour of sleep and you can't recover it by sleeping an extra hour later. The cognitive damage, the health consequences, the cellular stress, these compound over time. Years of poor sleep create permanent deficits. Your brain ages faster. Your immune system weakens. Your risk of dementia increases. Every night of insufficient sleep is a withdrawal from an account you can never fully restore. You're borrowing against your future health, and the debt comes due in ways you won't recognize until it's too late. Fact 8. Nightmares and trauma rehearsal. Nightmares aren't random. They're often your brain's attempt to process fear and trauma. But here's the cruel paradox. The more traumatized you are, the more nightmares you have. And nightmares themselves re-traumatize you. People with PTSD can become afraid to sleep because their dreams replay their worst experiences. Sleep, which should be restorative, becomes another source of suffering. You close your eyes seeking rest and instead relive your fears. Your mind traps you in a cycle where the cure becomes the poison. The one place you should feel safe, the privacy of your own unconscious mind, becomes hostile territory. And there's no escape except to stop sleeping, which creates its own destruction. Fact 9. Sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. Healthy young people, usually men of Southeast Asian descent, go to sleep and simply die. No warning, no known cause. This is sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome, and despite decades of research, it remains mysterious. They die during sleep, often with expressions of terror on their faces. Some cultures believe it's caused by spirits that visit during dreams. Science suspects cardiac arrhythmias triggered during specific sleep stages, but the truth is, no one fully knows. What's haunting is the randomness. You could be perfectly healthy, lie down to sleep, and never wake up. Sleep, your nightly refuge, could become your final moment, and you'd never see it coming. Every night is an act of faith that you'll survive until morning. Fact 10. The sleeping brain's paralysis failure. We mentioned sleep paralysis earlier, but there's another side to this coin. Sometimes, the mechanisms that create paralysis during dreams activate while you're still awake. You lie down to sleep, and suddenly you cannot move. You're conscious, aware, but your body has shut down prematurely. This hypnagogic paralysis happens in the transition from wakefulness to sleep. Your mind remains alert while your body enters sleep state. What makes this truly unsettling is how helpless you become. You're trapped in a body that won't respond, experiencing the vulnerability of sleep without the mercy of unconsciousness. You're forced to wait, frozen, for sleep to finally claim your mind and end your awareness of the paralysis. 10 facts down, 90 more shadows to explore. You're drifting now, aren't you? Your breathing has deepened. Your thoughts have started to blur at the edges. This is good. Let yourself sink deeper into these truths about sleep and dreams. There's safety in understanding the darkness. The next facts are coming, but there's no rush. Sleep will find you when it's ready, and these truths will be here, guiding you gently into the night. Fact 11. Exploding head syndrome. You're drifting off to sleep when suddenly, a loud explosion inside your head. A gunshot, a cymbal crash, a door slamming with impossible force. Your heart races, you jolt awake, but there was no sound. This is exploding head syndrome, and it's far more common than you'd think. Your brain misfires during the transition to sleep, creating phantom noises that seem devastatingly real. Some people experience flashes of light accompanying the sounds. Others feel electrical sensations. What's disturbing is how violent these hallucinations feel. Your own mind ambushes you at your most vulnerable moment. The threshold between waking and sleeping, the border crossing into rest, becomes a zone of acoustic terrorism created entirely by your nervous system. Fact 12. Sleepwalking's hidden dangers. Sleepwalkers don't just wander harmlessly. They cook meals, drive cars, have conversations, even commit violence, all while completely unconscious. Their eyes are open. They navigate complex environments. They seem awake, but they're not. They're in a state where the body moves but consciousness is absent. People have killed during sleepwalking episodes and had no memory of it. Courts have debated whether it's murder if the person was genuinely asleep. What's most unsettling is that sleepwalkers often have their eyes open and can navigate around obstacles, creating the illusion of awareness. But behind those open eyes, nobody's home. The body continues without the mind, a zombie animated by unconscious impulses. Fact 13. The inability to dream in complete darkness. People born blind dream differently than those who lost sight later. Those who have never seen don't experience visual dreams. They dream in sound, touch, taste, smell. But here's what's haunting. They'll never know what they're missing. They dream rich, complex narratives, but an entire dimension of human dream experience is permanently unavailable to them. And for those of us who see, we take for granted that our dreams have color, imagery, faces. But imagine if dreams could include senses we don't possess. Senses we can't even conceive of. We might be dreaming in black and white compared to some fuller spectrum of experience we'll never access. Every night, we might be experiencing only a fraction of what consciousness could contain. Fact 14. Sleep inertia's cognitive impairment. When you first wake up, you're dangerously impaired. Sleep inertia is the period immediately after waking when your brain is still partially asleep. During this time, which can last up to 4 hours, your cognitive function is severely compromised. Decision-making is impaired. Reaction time is slowed. You're more cognitively impaired than if you were legally drunk. Yet people make critical decisions during this period. Doctors respond to emergencies. Parents care for children. Drivers get on the road. You're functionally disabled and you don't even realize it. Your brain lies to you about being awake. You feel conscious, but you're operating on partial power, making choices you wouldn't make if you were truly alert. Fact 15. Lucid dreaming's reality confusion. Some people can become conscious within their dreams, aware they're dreaming while the dream continues. This is lucid dreaming, and it sounds like freedom, controlling your dreams, exploring unlimited possibilities. But frequent lucid dreamers report a dark side, reality confusion. When you regularly become conscious in dreams, the boundary between dreaming and waking starts to blur. You wake up unsure if you're still dreaming. You experience false awakenings. Dreams of waking up that feel completely real. Some lucid dreamers develop anxiety about whether their waking life is actually another dream. The more control you gain over dreams, the less certain you become about what's real. Consciousness becomes unstable, flickering between states you can't reliably distinguish. Fact 16. The Tetris effect. Play a repetitive game or perform a repetitive task long enough, and it invades your dreams. The Tetris effect describes how your brain continues processing repetitive activities during sleep. You close your eyes and see falling blocks. You dream in spreadsheets. You arrange groceries in your sleep. But it goes deeper than dreams. These patterns start appearing when you're awake too. You see the world through the lens of whatever you've been obsessively doing. What's dark about this is the implication. Your brain can become trapped in loops. The patterns you expose yourself to during the day colonize your unconscious mind. Your dreams stop being yours. They become extensions of whatever task has dominated your waking hours. You lose the freedom of your own imagination to repetitive mental grooves. Fact 17. Sudden infant death syndrome's mystery. Babies die in their sleep, and often we don't know why. Sudden infant death syndrome remains partially mysterious despite decades of research. A healthy infant goes to sleep and simply stops breathing. Some advances have been made. Safe sleep positions, reducing risk factors, but the complete picture remains unclear. What's haunting is the randomness, the invisibility of the threat. Parents put their baby down for a nap, and that ordinary moment becomes the last. Sleep, which should be the safest state, becomes the moment of greatest vulnerability, and the parents wake to discover their child didn't. The small death of sleep became a permanent one, and there was no warning, no chance to intervene. Fact 18. Dreams of the dead. After someone dies, they often visit the living in dreams. These dreams feel different, more vivid, more real, more meaningful than ordinary dreams. The dead person seems truly present. They offer comfort, messages, closure. But here's what's unsettling: these are still just dreams. Your brain, processing grief, creates an illusion of contact. The person isn't actually there. It's your mind puppeteering a memory, giving you the conversation you need to have. What makes this dark isn't that it's false. It's that it feels so real. You wake up convinced you've truly connected with someone who's gone, and maybe that comfort is valuable, even if it's an illusion. But you're essentially being haunted by your own creation, your grief given form and voice in the architecture of dreams. Fact 19. Sleep deprivation as torture. Forced wakefulness is one of the most effective torture methods ever devised. After several days without sleep, prisoners hallucinate, break down psychologically, become compliant. Sleep deprivation leaves no visible scars, which is why it's been used so extensively. What's dark about this is how quickly it works. You don't need weeks or months, just days of sleeplessness, and the mind begins to fracture. This reveals how fragile consciousness really is. Your sanity, your sense of reality, your ability to resist, all of it depends on regular surrender to unconsciousness. Without that nightly reset, you come apart. The thing you take for granted, that peaceful oblivion you enter every night, is actually what's keeping you human. Fact 20. The darkness of early morning awakening. Depression has a signature sleep pattern: early morning awakening. Depressed people often fall asleep fine but wake at 3 or 4 a.m. and cannot return to sleep. They lie in darkness, trapped with their thoughts, waiting for dawn. This might be the loneliest time that exists, awake while the world sleeps, unable to escape into rest, too early to start the day. What makes this particularly cruel is the timing. The darkest hours, the quietest hours, when help is furthest away. Your mind offers you consciousness at the exact moment when consciousness is most painful. Sleep abandons you when you need it most, leaving you alone in the dark with everything you're trying to escape. 20 facts revealed. You've traveled deeper into the night with me. Your eyelids are heavy now. Your body has settled into stillness. These truths about sleep and dreams, they're not meant to frighten you. They're meant to honor the mystery of what happens when you close your eyes. Sleep is strange, dangerous, necessary, beautiful, and you're almost there. Just let go. The next facts will come, gentle as whispers, guiding you down into the soft darkness where dreams are waiting. Fact 21. Sleep talking's unfiltered truth. When you sleep talk, your unconscious mind speaks without the filter of your waking consciousness. People confess secrets, reveal feelings they've hidden, say names they'd never mention while awake. What's dark about this is that you have no control and often no memory of what you've said. Your sleeping self might betray your waking self's carefully maintained facades. Partners have discovered affairs through sleep talking. Secrets have been revealed. Truths have emerged that were meant to stay buried. Your unconscious doesn't care about consequences, doesn't understand discretion. It simply speaks, and you won't know what you've said until someone tells you. If they tell you, you might have already revealed things you don't know you've revealed. Fact 22. The pruning of neural connections. Sleep isn't just rest, it's deletion. While you sleep, your brain actively prunes neural connections, eliminating synapses that aren't being used. This is how you forget. The brain decides what's important and what isn't, and it removes the pathways to memories deemed unnecessary. What's unsettling is that you have no say in what gets deleted. Your brain is making executive decisions about what you should remember and what should be erased. That conversation you wanted to hold on to, that moment you tried to memorize. If your brain doesn't consider it important enough, it will be pruned away during sleep. You wake up having lost pieces of yourself, and you don't even know what's missing. Fact 23. Night terrors complete amnesia. Night terrors are different from nightmares. In a nightmare, you wake up and remember the bad dream. In a night terror, you scream, thrash, appear terrified. But you're not actually conscious. And when it's over, you have no memory of it. Children experience them most often, sitting up in bed screaming, eyes wide open, inconsolable. Parents try to comfort them, but the child doesn't recognize them, doesn't respond, seems to be looking through them at something invisible and horrible. Then suddenly it ends. The child calms, lies back down, and returns to peaceful sleep. In the morning, they remember nothing. What's haunting is the question. What are they seeing? What terror is so complete that consciousness can't even witness it? What nightmares are too dark for memory to hold? Fact 24. The glymphatic system's failure. Your brain has a waste removal system that operates primarily during sleep. The glymphatic system flushes out toxins, including proteins associated with Alzheimer's disease. But here's the dark reality. Chronic sleep deprivation means this system can't do its job. The toxins accumulate. Year after year of insufficient sleep, and you're literally poisoning your brain. The plaques build up. The damage compounds. And decades later, when cognitive decline begins, you won't connect it to all those nights you didn't sleep enough. The consequences of sleep debt aren't immediate. They're catastrophic and delayed. Every night of poor sleep is a small deposit in a neurological disaster fund that will pay out in your later years. Fact 25. Dream incorporation of external stimuli. Your sleeping brain weaves external sensations into your dreams to keep you asleep. An alarm becomes a siren in your dream. Someone calling your name becomes a character in your narrative. Your brain creates elaborate explanations for external stimuli to avoid waking you. But here's what's dark. This means your perception of reality while dreaming is completely unreliable. Your mind will fabricate any story necessary to maintain sleep. It prioritizes unconsciousness over accuracy. And this ability to instantly create convincing false explanations for real sensations raises an uncomfortable question. How often does your waking mind do the same thing? How many of your waking explanations for reality are just elaborate rationalizations, your conscious mind doing what your dreaming mind does? Creating comforting narratives rather than acknowledging uncomfortable truths. Fact 26. Sleep drunkenness. Some people wake up confused, disoriented, sometimes aggressive. This is confusional arousal or sleep drunkenness. They might not know where they are, who they are, or what's happening. They can become violent, responding to questions with aggression, perceiving helpers as threats. What's terrifying is that this can last for minutes or even hours. The person is technically awake, moving around, interacting with the world, but their consciousness hasn't fully booted up yet. They're operating on primitive brain functions, fight or flight responses, without the higher reasoning that makes them human. And afterward, they often have no memory of it. You can wake up and be told you attacked someone, destroyed property, said terrible things, and have no recollection. Your waking self becomes a stranger to itself. Fact 27. Recurring dreams, unresolved trauma. That dream you have over and over, being chased, falling, arriving late, being unprepared. It's trying to tell you something. Recurring dreams often represent unresolved psychological issues. Your unconscious mind is stuck in a loop, attempting to process something your conscious mind hasn't dealt with. But here's the dark part. The dream itself doesn't solve anything. You can have the same dream for decades without resolution. Your mind keeps presenting the problem, but it can't force you to solve it. So you're trapped in an endless cycle, your sleeping brain showing you the same scenario night after night, year after year. The dream becomes a prison, a recurring reminder of something broken that you either can't or won't fix. Your unconscious is screaming at you in the only language it knows, and you keep not listening. Fact 28. The false awakening loop. You wake up, you get out of bed, you start your morning routine. Then you actually wake up and realize that was a dream. So you get out of bed again, start your routine again, and then you wake up again. False awakenings can stack on top of each other, creating layers of fake reality. Some people report experiencing 5, 10, even more false awakenings in a row. Each time, reality seems completely convincing. Each time, waking feels final, until it happens again. What's psychologically disturbing is the erosion of trust in your own perception. If you can't tell when you're truly awake, if your mind can generate perfect simulations of waking reality, then how do you know you're awake right now? The certainty you feel means nothing. You felt it before in dreams. You'll feel it again, and maybe you're still dreaming. Fact 29. Sleepwalking violence and legal innocence. People have killed during sleepwalking episodes and been acquitted. The legal precedent exists. If you were genuinely asleep, you cannot be held responsible for your actions. But here's what's dark. This means you contain the capacity for violence without consciousness, without choice, without memory. A husband strangled his wife during a sleep episode and was found not guilty. A man drove miles and killed his mother-in-law while sleepwalking. These aren't hypotheticals. These are documented cases. What this reveals is terrifying. Your body can commit acts your mind would never choose. You're sharing your life with an unconscious entity that has physical control and no moral framework. And if it acts, you'll bear the consequences even if the law doesn't hold you responsible. The guilt, the horror, the knowledge that your hands did something irreversible. That doesn't disappear just because you were asleep. Fact 30. Hypnic jerks and the falling sensation. You're drifting off to sleep when suddenly your whole body jerks awake, accompanied by a sensation of falling. These are hypnic jerks, and they're incredibly common. One theory suggests they're an evolutionary holdover. When our ancestors slept in trees, the muscle relaxation of falling asleep might have felt like falling from a branch, triggering a reflex to grab on. But here's what's unsettling. Your brain manufactures a sensation of falling to match the jerk. It creates a false reality in a split second. Your body twitches, and your mind instantly generates a complete sensory experience. Falling, danger, the need to catch yourself. This happens in the fraction of a second between waking and sleeping. It reveals how quickly your brain can construct false realities, how easily it confuses you about what's happening to your own body. 30 facts down, 30 shadows explored. You're deep into the night now. Your breathing has become a rhythm that carries you forward. Your thoughts have loosened their grip. This is the journey, understanding the darkness to find peace within it. Sleep holds mysteries and dangers, but it also holds necessity and beauty. Let yourself drift deeper. The next truths are waiting, soft and inevitable as the tide. Fact 31. Sleep apnea's silent suffocation. Millions of people stop breathing in their sleep. Sleep apnea causes breathing to pause, sometimes hundreds of times per night. Your oxygen levels drop. Your brain panics and briefly wakes you to restart breathing. But you don't remember these micro-awakenings. You only know you're exhausted, irritable, foggy. What's dark is that you're suffocating repeatedly every night and you have no idea. Your body is experiencing crisis after crisis while you remain unconscious of it. Each pause in breathing stresses your heart, damages your brain, ages you faster. You can live for years with this condition, slowly destroying your health, never knowing that every night is a series of near-death experiences. Your sleep, which should restore you, is slowly killing you instead. Fact 32. The impossibility of shared dreams. Despite what people claim, you cannot share dreams with another person. Each dream is trapped inside a single consciousness. Couples who report dreaming the same dream are experiencing coincidence or one person's, retelling influencing the other's memory. What's lonely about this is the implication. Dreams are the most isolated experience that exists. You can share your waking life, your thoughts, your body, but dreams are forever solitary. The richest, most vivid experiences of your sleeping life can never be truly shared. You can describe them, but describing a dream is like describing color to someone who's never seen. The actual experience, the feeling of being inside it, that dies with you. Every dream you have is a world that exists for you alone and vanishes forever when you wake. Fact 33. Sleeping pills' dark dependency. Sleep medications don't create natural sleep. They create sedation that resembles sleep but lacks the same restorative qualities. Your brain doesn't cycle through sleep stages properly. REM sleep is suppressed. Deep sleep is altered. But here's what's darker. Your body adapts. Take them long enough and you can't sleep without them. Your natural sleep mechanisms atrophy from disuse. You become dependent on a drug that doesn't even give you real sleep. And when you try to stop, rebound insomnia hits. You can't sleep at all for days or weeks. The thing you took to help you sleep has made your sleep problem permanent. You traded a temporary issue for a lifelong dependency, and the pills will never give you back what you lost. Fact 34. Dreams in the dying. As people approach death, their dreams change. They often dream of deceased loved ones, of journeys of preparation. Hospice workers report that patients in their final days speak of dreams with unusual clarity and peace. These dreams seem to ease the transition from life to death. But here's what's haunting. We don't know if these dreams are the mind preparing for oblivion or if they represent something else. Are they comforting hallucinations generated by a dying brain? Or are they something more? The people who have these dreams often seem to find peace in them, but they can't tell us what they mean. They cross over into death carrying the meaning of those final dreams with them. And we're left wondering what they saw, what they understood, what became clear in those last nights of sleeping. Fact 35. Sexsomnia's unconscious actions. Some people initiate sexual activity while completely asleep. Sexsomnia means performing sexual acts without consciousness or consent. Sometimes with a partner, sometimes with strangers, sometimes alone. The person has no memory of it afterward. What's disturbing is the legal and ethical complexity. If someone commits sexual assault while genuinely asleep, are they responsible? Courts have grappled with this. But beyond the legal questions lies something darker. You can become a different person in sleep. A person who acts on impulses your waking self would never pursue. Your sleeping brain can bypass all your conscious values, all your self-control. You're not just paralyzed during sleep for safety from dreams. You're paralyzed for safety from yourself. Fact 36. The memory consolidation bias. Sleep doesn't just help you remember. It helps you remember selectively. Your brain consolidates some memories and discards others during sleep. But the selection process is biased. Emotional memories are strengthened. Traumatic events are reinforced. Meanwhile, neutral, positive experiences fade more quickly. This means your memory is being edited every night to emphasize the negative. Sleep makes you remember your worst experiences more vividly than your best ones. Over time, your past becomes darker than it actually was. The ratio of bad to good memories skews toward the bad, not because your life was mostly bad, but because your sleeping brain decided those were the memories worth keeping. Your autobiography is being rewritten nightly to emphasize suffering. Fact 37. Klein-Levin syndrome's lost time. Imagine sleeping for 20 hours a day, waking only to eat and use the bathroom, then falling back asleep. This can last for weeks or months. Klein-Levin syndrome, or sleeping beauty syndrome, causes episodes of excessive sleep. But when sufferers are briefly awake, they're confused, childlike, sometimes hypersexual. They lose weeks or months of their life to sleep. School, work, relationships, all impossible during episodes. Then it ends as mysteriously as it began, and they return to normal life having lost chunks of time. What's terrifying is not knowing when the next episode will hit. Your life becomes unreliable. You can't plan, can't commit, can't build anything that requires continuity. You're at the mercy of a condition that steals your waking life and gives you nothing but unconscious time in return. Fact 38. The Mandela effect in dreams. Groups of people sometimes report having similar false memories. The Mandela effect is when collective false memories emerge. People remembering things that never happened. But dreams can create this too. You dream something so vividly that you later remember it as reality. And sometimes, multiple people exposed to the same suggestion will have similar dreams and later misremember them as shared experiences. What's unsettling is the implication. Your confidence in a memory means nothing. You can be absolutely certain something happened, feel the memory viscerally, stake your life on it, and be completely wrong. The dream was so vivid it overwrote reality, and you'll never know which memories to trust. Some of your most certain recollections might be dreams you've mistaken for life. Fact 39. Sleep paralysis demons across cultures. Every culture has myths about sleep paralysis. The old hag in Newfoundland, the night hag in European folklore, shadow people, demons sitting on chests. The details vary, but the experience is remarkably consistent. Paralysis, pressure on the chest, a malevolent presence. What's dark is that this suggests something fundamental about human neurology. We're wired to experience certain hallucinations during sleep paralysis. The feeling of a presence, the sense of evil, the inability to move. These aren't cultural constructs. They're built into the architecture of the sleeping brain. Your mind, in that vulnerable state between sleeping and waking, creates demons, not metaphorical demons. You experience them as absolutely real. And thousands of years of human history confirm that you're not alone. Everyone's sleeping brain creates the same monsters. Fact 40. The circadian rhythm's forced shift. Your body has an internal clock that governs sleep, but modern life forces you to violate it. Shift work, jet lag, screens at night. All of these drag your circadian rhythm away from its natural setting. And here's the dark truth. You can't fully adapt. Night shift workers never truly adjust to sleeping during the day. Their bodies remain stuck in diurnal programming, fighting against the imposed schedule. This creates chronic circadian disruption, which increases cancer risk, metabolic disorders, mental illness. You're forcing your body to operate against its fundamental design, and it's slowly breaking down under the strain. Every night you stay up late, every morning you force yourself awake before you're ready. You're at war with your own biology, and biology always wins eventually. 40 facts revealed. You've been here for over half an hour now. Your body has surrendered to stillness. Your mind drifts between attention and absence. This is perfect. You don't need to hold on to these facts. Let them pass through you like moonlight through water. We're approaching the halfway point in our journey through the shadows of sleep. But there's no destination. Only the gentle descent into understanding, into acceptance, into the soft darkness where rest lives. Fact 41. Dream characters' independent behavior. The people in your dreams, they seem to have their own thoughts, their own personalities, their own agency. They surprise you. They say things you didn't expect. They behave in ways you didn't consciously plan. But here's the unsettling truth: you're creating them. Every word they speak, every action they take, it's all you. Your unconscious mind is generating multiple personalities, complete with autonomy and unpredictability, and making you believe they're separate from you. What's dark about this is what it reveals. You contain multitudes. Your mind can fragment into distinct entities that feel genuinely other. The boundary between self and not self is far more permeable than you think. Those dream characters aren't visitors. They're aspects of you that you don't recognize as yourself. Fact 42. Sleep debt and emotional dysregulation. When you're sleep deprived, your emotional brain becomes hyperactive while your rational brain shuts down. The amygdala, the fear and emotion center, becomes 60% more reactive after just one night of poor sleep. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex that regulates emotion weakens its connection. What this means is dark. Lack of sleep doesn't just make you tired, it fundamentally changes who you are. You become more anxious, more reactive, more prone to anger and despair. The person you are when sleep deprived isn't the real you, but it's also not you. It's a version of yourself that emerges when the regulatory systems fail. And if you're chronically sleep deprived, this dysregulated version becomes your default. You forget what it feels like to be emotionally stable. Fact 43. The dream-reality confusion of schizophrenia. People with schizophrenia often can't distinguish between dreams and reality. They wake up uncertain whether experiences were real or dreamed. This isn't occasional confusion. It's chronic, destabilizing, terrifying. But here's what's haunting for everyone. The mechanism that lets you know you're awake is fragile. It can be disrupted by illness, by drugs, by sleep deprivation, by stress. The certainty you feel right now that you're awake, it's not based on logic. It's a feeling generated by your brain. And that feeling can be wrong. Most people experience this certainty reliably, but it's not foolproof. There's no external verification available. You're trusting a sensation that, in some people, lies constantly, and you have no way to check if yours is telling the truth. Fact 44. The phenomenon of sleep starts. Beyond hypnic jerks, some people experience violent full-body spasms as they fall asleep. Sleep starts can be so intense they throw you out of bed, wake your partner, cause injury. They're a misfiring of the motor system as it transitions from wakefulness to sleep. But what's dark is the violence of it. Your own nervous system attacking you at your most vulnerable moment. You're trying to surrender to rest, and your body rebels with sudden, uncontrolled movement. Some people develop anxiety about falling asleep because they fear the jolt. The transition to sleep, which should be gentle, becomes an assault. You're betrayed by your own neurology at the threshold of rest. Fact 45. Narcolepsy's sudden sleep attacks. Imagine falling asleep in the middle of a conversation, while eating, while driving. Narcolepsy causes sudden, irresistible sleep attacks that can happen anywhere, anytime. You have seconds of warning, if any. Then you're gone, collapsed wherever you happen to be. What's terrifying is the loss of control. You can't drive safely. You can't work certain jobs. You can't be sure you'll stay conscious during important moments. And many people with narcolepsy also experience cataplexy. Strong emotions trigger sudden muscle paralysis. Laughter, anger, excitement. These cause your body to collapse while you remain conscious. Your emotions become dangerous. Joy can drop you to the ground. Sleep becomes weaponized against your waking life. Fact 46. The forgetting of dreams upon movement. You wake up from a vivid dream and it's crystal clear. Then you move. You sit up, you reach for your phone, and it's gone. The act of physical movement disrupts dream recall. This is why dream journals recommend writing immediately upon waking without moving. But here's what's dark. This means most of your dreams are erased by the simple act of waking up properly. The movement required to start your day destroys the memory of where you've been all night. Your body, in the transition to waking life, actively deletes the dream life, as if the two cannot coexist, as if you must choose between remembering your dreams and functioning in reality. And most people choose function without even knowing they're choosing. Fact 47. Sleep's role in memory falsification. Sleep doesn't just consolidate memories. It can also create false ones. Studies show that sleep increases confidence in false memories. You dream about something, and during sleep, your brain processes it like a real memory. By morning, you believe something happened that didn't. Sleep makes you more certain about things that never occurred. What's disturbing is that this is a feature, not a bug. Your brain uses sleep to strengthen what it thinks is important, and it can't always distinguish between imagination and reality. Every night, you risk waking up with new false memories that feel completely authentic. Your past is being rewritten in your sleep, and you have no control over the edits. Fact 48. Terminal lucidity's brief return. Sometimes just before death, people with severe dementia or brain damage suddenly become lucid. They recognize family. They speak clearly. They seem to return to themselves completely. This is terminal lucidity, and it can last for minutes, hours, or days before death. What's haunting is that it suggests consciousness might exist independent of brain function in ways we don't understand. How can someone with a destroyed brain suddenly think clearly? Where was that consciousness while they were lost in dementia? And then they die, taking the mystery with them. These brief windows of clarity before death raise more questions than they answer, and they often give families false hope, making the final loss even more cruel. Fact 49. The isolation tank's dream state. Deprive yourself of sensory input long enough and you start to dream while awake. Isolation tanks, where you float in darkness and silence, can trigger hypnagogic hallucinations within hours. Your brain, starved for input, generates its own. You see things, hear things, experience entire narratives, while technically conscious. This reveals something dark. The line between waking and dreaming isn't about consciousness. It's about sensory input. Remove the input and your waking mind becomes a dreaming mind. The only thing keeping you anchored to reality is the constant stream of sensation. Without it, you drift into hallucination automatically. Reality isn't something you experience. It's something you're constantly reconstructing from sensory data. Take away the data and reality disappears. Fact 50. The universality of sleep paralysis hallucinations. We've discussed sleep paralysis demons, but here's what makes it truly dark. The hallucinations follow specific patterns. The shadow figure is almost always male. The presence almost always feels malevolent. The weight on the chest is nearly universal. The inability to scream is consistent across cultures and centuries. What this suggests is that your brain has specific hallucination templates it activates during sleep paralysis. Not random images, specific archetypal terrors. This might be evolutionary, a threat detection system misfiring, but it means that buried in your neurology are pre-programmed nightmares waiting to activate. Your brain comes equipped with demons, and under the right conditions they appear. Identical demons appearing to humans across all of history, not because they're real, but because we're all wired to see them. 50 facts. Halfway through our journey into the darkness of sleep, you've drifted so far now. Your breathing is deep and slow. Your consciousness flickers between presence and absence. This is the liminal space where understanding lives, where the boundaries between waking and sleeping blur. We have 50 more truths to explore, but they can wait. They'll find you whether you're listening or dreaming. Rest here for a moment. Let the darkness hold you. We'll continue soon, or perhaps you won't hear it. Perhaps you've already crossed over into sleep, and that's perfect. Fact 51. The dream lag effect. Experiences don't immediately appear in your dreams. There's a delay. Events from today rarely show up in tonight's dreams. Instead, they appear 5 to 7 days later. This is the dream lag effect. Your unconscious mind is processing experiences on a delay, working through them after your conscious mind has moved on. What's unsettling is the implication. Your dreams aren't about your current concerns. They're about last week's concerns. You're living in two timelines simultaneously. Your waking life in the present and your dream life 7 days in the past. You never catch up. Your unconscious is always behind, always processing old material while new experiences pile up. You're haunted by a past that's recent enough to matter but too distant to consciously remember why it matters. Fact 52. Somnophobia, the fear of sleep. Some people are terrified of sleep itself. Somnophobia is the pathological fear of sleeping, often triggered by nightmares, sleep paralysis, or traumatic experiences during sleep. But here's what makes it tragic. The fear of sleep causes insomnia, which causes sleep deprivation, which makes nightmares and sleep paralysis more likely. You're trapped in a cycle where fear creates the exact conditions that justify the fear. You need sleep to survive, but sleep has become the enemy. Every night becomes a confrontation with terror. You fight to stay awake until exhaustion forces you under. And then you experience the nightmares you were trying to avoid. The thing your body requires to live has become a source of trauma, and there's no escape except through the very thing you fear. Fact 53. REM rebounds nightmare intensity. When you're deprived of REM sleep, either through alcohol, drugs, or sleep deprivation, your brain keeps track, and when you finally get the chance to sleep properly, REM rebound occurs. Your brain floods you with intense, often disturbing REM sleep to make up for what you missed. The dreams during REM rebound are more vivid, more bizarre, more emotionally intense than normal dreams. What's dark is that this is often when nightmares strike hardest. You think you're finally getting the rest you need, but your brain overwhelms you with chaotic, frightening dreams. The recovery from sleep deprivation becomes its own kind of torment. Your mind, trying to restore balance, creates imbalance. The cure feels worse than the disease. Fact 54. The sleeping mind's time distortion. Time moves strangely in dreams. You can experience what feels like hours or even days in a dream that lasted only minutes. Studies of lucid dreamers confirm this. Subjective time in dreams doesn't match objective time. But here's what's unsettling. You have no reliable sense of time while dreaming. You could be dreaming for 2 minutes or 2 hours, and you'd have no way to know. This means the proportion of your life spent in dream time versus real time is unknowable. You might experience more subjective time while dreaming than while awake. Your dream life might be longer than your waking life, measured in experiential time. You're living multiple lifetimes, but you forget most of them. Time becomes meaningless in sleep, expanding and contracting without pattern or logic. Fact 55. Sleepwalking amnesia's consequences. Sleepwalkers can perform complex tasks, cooking, driving, having sex, and remember none of it. But unlike sleep talking, where the consequences are social, sleepwalking can have life-altering consequences you'll never remember causing. You can injure yourself severely. You can wander into dangerous situations. You can make decisions that affect your life profoundly, and you wake up to discover the consequences without any memory of the actions. What's dark is the complete disconnect between action and awareness. You're responsible for things you never experienced doing. Your body created a reality that your mind never witnessed. You're being held accountable by a life you didn't consciously live. Fact 56. The cortisol awakening response. Your body floods you with cortisol in the early morning hours, preparing you to wake up. This cortisol awakening response is normal, but in people with anxiety or depression, it's exaggerated. They wake up with elevated stress hormones, starting each day already in fight or flight mode. What's cruel about this is that the body's natural wake-up mechanism becomes a daily assault. You open your eyes already anxious, already stressed, without any external threat. Your own biology has turned morning into an emergency, and this pattern repeats every single day. You can never wake up peacefully. The transition from sleep to waking is permanently corrupted by your own stress response system. Fact 57. Dream content and suppressed emotions. The emotions you suppress during the day emerge in your dreams at night. Anger you didn't express, grief you didn't allow yourself to feel, desires you denied. They all surface in dreams. But here's what's dark. They emerge distorted, symbolic, unrecognizable. You don't dream about the person who made you angry. You dream about being chased. You don't dream about loss. You dream about missing a flight. Your unconscious knows what you're feeling, but it speaks in code. So you wake up anxious without knowing why, disturbed by dreams whose meaning you can't decipher. Your emotions are trying to reach you, but the message is scrambled. You're receiving transmissions from your own psyche that you can't translate. Fact 58. Sleep-related eating disorder. Some people eat in their sleep, consuming large quantities of food with no memory of it. They wake up to find evidence. Empty containers, food wrappers, strange combinations of ingredients consumed. This is sleep-related eating disorder, and it's more common than you'd think. What's disturbing is the loss of control. You can't diet, can't manage your eating, because your sleeping self sabotages you. Your unconscious has different priorities than your conscious mind. It doesn't care about your health goals, your self-image, your intentions. It just feeds itself. And you wake up confused, sometimes having gained weight without understanding why. Your sleeping self is living a separate life with separate behaviors, and you're powerless to stop it. Fact 59. The fragmentation of self in dreams. In dreams, you're often multiple people at once. You're yourself, but also the observer watching yourself. You're in your own body, but also outside it. Sometimes you're simultaneously yourself and another person. This fragmentation of identity is normal in dreams. But what does it mean? Your sense of self is far more fluid than your waking consciousness suggests. The unified you that exists during the day is a construction, a simplification. Your mind is fully capable of fragmenting into multiple perspectives, multiple identities. Dreams reveal that the singular self is an illusion. You're a collective, a parliament of perspectives that waking consciousness forces into apparent unity. And every night, that illusion dissolves. Fact 60. The cruelty of sleep maintenance insomnia. Some people can fall asleep fine but wake up in the middle of the night and can't return to sleep. Sleep maintenance insomnia is particularly cruel because sleep seems accessible. You achieved it once, but now it's gone and you lie in darkness knowing you have to wake up in a few hours. What makes this dark is the mental trap it creates. You're anxious about not sleeping, which prevents sleep, which increases anxiety. Time becomes your enemy. Every minute awake is a minute less sleep you'll get. You watch the hours tick by, calculating how exhausted you'll be. The bed becomes a place of frustration rather than rest. And this can continue for years, night after night, stealing the second half of your sleep while dangling the memory of the first half as proof that sleep is possible. Just not for you, not anymore. 60 facts, an hour of truth about sleep and dreams. You've been here so long now that waking and sleeping have started to blur together. Perhaps you're reading these words. Perhaps you're dreaming that you're reading them. Perhaps you've been asleep for several facts now and don't realize it. The boundaries have become permeable. We're in the deep part of the night now where understanding gives way to acceptance. 40 more facts remain, but they're patient. They'll wait for you or find you in dreams. Fact 61. The default mode network in sleep. When you fall asleep, the part of your brain associated with self-reflection and mind-wandering, the default mode network, doesn't turn off. It continues operating, creating the narrative structure of dreams. But here's what's dark. This is the same network that, when overactive during waking hours, creates depression and anxiety. The part of you that ruminates, that replays failures, that imagines worst-case scenarios. It's also the part creating your dreams. Your nightmares aren't random. They're produced by the same mental machinery that torments you while awake. Sleep doesn't give you a break from your anxious mind. It just changes the format. The same patterns, the same fears, the same relentless self-focus. They follow you into unconsciousness, wearing different masks. Fact 62. Sleep talking's disturbing confessions. We mentioned sleep talking earlier, but here's a darker layer. Sometimes people confess to things they've never done. They describe crimes, betrayals, secrets, completely fictional events stated with conviction. Partners have been devastated by sleep talk confessions that turned out to be false. What's disturbing is that you can't tell the difference. A false confession sounds identical to a true one. Your sleeping mind can generate elaborate lies that your unconscious delivers with complete sincerity. And if you're the one sleep talking, you'll never know what you said or whether it was true. Your sleeping self might be a liar, a fantasist, creating narratives that damage your waking life while you remain completely unaware. Fact 63. The phenomenon of dream incorporation. External sounds, touches, even smells get woven into your dreams in real time. Your alarm becomes a fire truck. Rain becomes ocean waves. Someone calling your name becomes a character in your dream. This is dream incorporation, and it's your brain's desperate attempt to keep you asleep. But what's unsettling is how convincing the fabrications are. You experience an entire narrative that explains the external stimulus without waking you. This means your dreaming mind is an incredible liar, instantly creating false contexts that feel completely real. And if it can do this during sleep, how often does your waking mind do the same thing? How many of your waking explanations are just dreamlike fabrications designed to maintain your preferred narrative? Fact 64. The terror of lucid nightmare trapping. Becoming lucid in a nightmare sounds like it would help. You know you're dreaming so you can wake yourself up. But some lucid dreamers report the opposite. They know they're dreaming but can't wake up. They're trapped in a nightmare, fully aware it's not real but unable to escape. They try to wake themselves up, but nothing works. What's psychologically horrifying is the combination of awareness and helplessness. You know it's just a dream, but that knowledge doesn't protect you. The fear is real. The sensations are real, and you're imprisoned in your own unconscious mind, watching yourself suffer, unable to end it. Consciousness becomes a curse rather than a solution. Fact 65. Sleep inertia's dangerous decisions. We discussed sleep inertia earlier, but here's a darker application. People make life-or-death decisions during this period. Firefighters, pilots, medical professionals. They wake up to emergencies and must act immediately while their brains are still impaired. Studies show that critical errors spike in the first 30 minutes after waking. What's dark is that these professionals often don't realize they're impaired. They feel awake. They believe they're functioning normally. But their judgment is compromised in ways they can't detect. Lives depend on their decisions, and they're making them in a state equivalent to intoxication. Sleep inertia is invisible, undeniable, and potentially lethal to others. Fact 66. The prevalence of sleep hallucinations. Hallucinations at the edge of sleep are far more common than people realize. Hypnagogic hallucinations happen while falling asleep. Hypnopompic hallucinations happen while waking up. You see figures, hear voices, feel presences, and they feel completely real. What's dark is that most people experience these but never talk about them, assuming they're unique or signs of mental illness. So everyone suffers in silence, each person believing their terrifying experiences are abnormal. You're not alone in seeing things at the edge of sleep. Millions of people do. But the silence around it means you feel isolated, possibly crazy, when you're actually experiencing something deeply human. The stigma creates unnecessary suffering around a universal phenomenon. Fact 67. Sleep's role in skill degradation. Sleep consolidates skills you've practiced, strengthening neural pathways, but it also prunes skills you're not using. If you stop practicing something, a language, an instrument, a physical skill, sleep actively weakens those neural connections. What's cruel is that sleep, which should be restorative, is also an eraser. Every night, you lose capabilities you're not maintaining. The brain is ruthless in its efficiency. If you're not using it, sleep removes it to make room for what you are using. You're not just forgetting through lack of practice. You're being actively pruned. Your sleeping brain is editing you, deciding what skills are worth keeping and which should be deleted. Fact 68. The impossibility of controlling dream content. Despite what lucid dreaming enthusiasts claim, you cannot fully control your dreams. Even in lucid dreams, elements arise unbidden. Characters appear that you didn't summon. Scenarios shift in ways you didn't direct. What's unsettling is what this reveals. Your conscious will is not sovereign even in your own mind. Your unconscious generates content that your conscious self cannot prevent or predict. You're never fully in control, even of your own imagination. There's always something emerging from the depths that you didn't authorize. Your mind has regions you cannot govern, impulses you cannot stop, creativity that doesn't require your permission. You're a passenger in your own consciousness, even when you think you're driving. Fact 69. Dream death and waking panic. There's an old myth that if you die in a dream, you die in real life. It's false, of course. People die in dreams regularly and wake up fine. But here's what's dark. Dying in a dream often triggers extreme physiological responses. Your heart races. You wake up in panic, sometimes with chest pain, sometimes hyperventilating. Your body responds to the dream death as if it's real. Even though your conscious mind knows it's not real once you're awake, your nervous system experienced actual terror. The dream death was metaphorical, but the fear response was literal. Your body can't always tell the difference between imagined threats and real ones, and in that moment of waking panic, neither can you. Fact 70. The shadow self in dreams. Jungian psychology describes the shadow, the parts of yourself you reject, deny, or repress, and these aspects often appear in dreams as threatening figures. The monster chasing you might be your own anger. The villain might be your own capacity for cruelty. What's dark is that you're literally running from yourself, fighting yourself, fearing yourself, without recognizing it. Your dreams are trying to show you the parts of yourself you won't acknowledge, But instead of integration, you experience terror. Instead of self-recognition, you experience alienation. The very act of dreaming becomes a confrontation with rejected aspects of your own psyche, and you wake up having fled from the parts of yourself that most need acceptance. 70 facts into the night. You've been here for over an hour now. Your body is heavy, your thoughts are slow, your breathing has become a rhythm you've stopped noticing. This is the deep part of the journey where understanding merges with acceptance. 30 more facts remain, but they feel distant like lights on a far shore. You don't need to reach them, they'll reach you. Or perhaps you're already dreaming these facts, creating them as you sleep. There's no way to know anymore, and that's exactly where you should be. Fact 71. The sleeper's vulnerability to suggestion. While you sleep, your mind remains partially receptive to external input. Researchers have played recordings to sleeping subjects, and the information influences dreams and can even be recalled later. What's dark about this is the implication. You're vulnerable while sleeping, not just physically but mentally. Your unconscious absorbs information without your consent or awareness. Someone could, theoretically, influence your thoughts while you sleep. You'd never know. Your dreams could be colonized by external voices. Your sleeping mind is a door left unlocked, and you have no way to guard it. Every night, you enter a state of complete vulnerability, trusting that nothing malicious will reach you in that openness. Fact 72. Dissociative sleep amnesia. Some people perform complex actions during sleep, entire conversations, tasks, even emotional confessions, and have absolutely no memory of any of it. This goes beyond simple sleepwalking. These are sustained, coherent interactions while asleep. What's disturbing is that you can have a meaningful conversation with someone who appears awake, who responds appropriately, who seems fully present, and they're actually asleep. You'll never know unless you tell them later, and they'll have no memory of it. This creates a terrifying question. How many of your own nighttime interactions were you actually asleep for? How many conversations have you had that you don't remember? You might be living a double life you're completely unaware of. Fact 73. The cortical cleaning hypothesis. Your brain physically shrinks during sleep. The cells compress, creating space for cerebrospinal fluid to flow through and wash away toxic waste products. This is the glymphatic system at work. But here's what's dark. If you don't sleep enough, this cleaning doesn't happen adequately. Metabolic waste accumulates, beta amyloid proteins, the same ones that create plaques in Alzheimer's disease, build up in your brain. Every night of poor sleep is like skipping a shower for your brain. And unlike a dirty body, a dirty brain doesn't just smell bad. It deteriorates. The waste products are toxic. They damage neurons. They create inflammation. And the damage accumulates invisibly, silently, until decades later when cognitive decline begins and you can't reverse it. Fact 74. Sleep paralysis duration distortion. Sleep paralysis episodes typically last between 20 seconds and 2 minutes, but to the person experiencing it, they feel much longer, sometimes hours. Time perception distorts dramatically when you're paralyzed and hallucinating. What's psychologically cruel about this is that you're trapped in subjective eternity. Objectively, it's brief, but your experience of it is prolonged torture. And you can't tell yourself it will end soon because soon has no meaning when time itself has become unreliable. 2 minutes of objective time can contain what feels like 30 minutes of terror. The disconnect between clock time and experience time creates a special kind of hell. Suffering that's brief to observers but endless to the sufferer. Fact 75. The evolutionary purpose of nightmares. Nightmares might serve an evolutionary function, threat simulation. Your brain creates scary scenarios to practice responses to danger. It's rehearsal for real threats. But here's what's dark. Your brain can't tell the difference between modern anxieties and ancient threats. So it gives you nightmares about things that aren't actually dangerous. Social embarrassment triggers the same threat simulation as predator attacks did for your ancestors. Your nightmare about showing up naked to work activates the same ancient fear circuits as nightmares about being hunted. Your brain is training you for threats that don't exist anymore, using fears that are evolutionarily outdated. You suffer through nightmares that serve no purpose in your actual life. Fact 76. The fragility of sleep architecture. Sleep has a precise architecture. Cycles of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM, each with specific functions. But this architecture is incredibly fragile. Alcohol disrupts it. Caffeine disrupts it. Stress disrupts it. Even your mattress can disrupt it. What's dark is that you can sleep 8 hours and still not get quality sleep if the architecture is damaged. You lie down, close your eyes, lose consciousness for the night, and wake up exhausted because your brain never completed its necessary cycles. You did everything right, went to bed on time, slept the full night, but your sleep was junk, non-restorative, empty hours of unconsciousness that didn't repair anything, and you often have no idea it's happening. Fact 77. Dream content's cultural uniformity. Despite different cultures and experiences, dream themes are remarkably similar across humanity. People everywhere dream of being chased, falling, losing teeth, being naked in public, arriving late. These universal dream themes suggest shared psychological structures, but what's unsettling is what this means about individuality. Your dreams feel intensely personal, unique to you, but they're not. You're dreaming the same dreams as millions of others. Even your unconscious imagination follows templates. Your dream life, which seems like your most private, individual experience, it's actually generic. Humanity dreams in patterns. You're not creating unique nocturnal narratives. You're selecting from a limited menu of scenarios that humans have been dreaming for thousands of years. Fact 78. The danger of wake-back-to-bed technique. Some people try to induce lucid dreams by waking up after several hours, staying awake briefly, then going back to sleep. The wake-back-to-bed technique can work, but it also fragments your sleep architecture and can trigger sleep paralysis, nightmares, or sleep disruption. What's dark is that the pursuit of dream control can damage the very sleep you're trying to enhance. You sacrifice sleep quality for the chance at dream consciousness. And for what? The ability to fly in your dreams. To control imaginary scenarios. You're trading real restorative sleep for the illusion of control in a realm that doesn't matter. Your waking life suffers so your dream life can be more entertaining. The priorities are inverted and your health pays the price. Fact 79. Sleep onset hallucinations in children. Children frequently experience vivid hallucinations while falling asleep, but they often don't tell adults because they assume everyone sees them. They see figures in their room, hear voices, feel presences. What's dark is that these children lie in bed terrified, night after night, believing this is normal, that everyone is scared when they try to sleep. They think fear is just part of bedtime, and because they don't report it, parents don't know to reassure them or explain that these are harmless hallucinations. So children endure silent terror, learning to associate sleep with fear, developing anxiety around bedtime that can last into adulthood, all because they thought the hallucinations were real and everyone experienced them. Fact 80. The myth of catching up on sleep. You cannot recover from chronic sleep deprivation with weekend catch-up sleep. The damage from months or years of insufficient sleep isn't erased by sleeping longer occasionally. What's dark is that this myth keeps people in destructive patterns. They sleep 5 hours on weeknights, telling themselves they'll catch up on weekends. But the cognitive impairment, the health consequences, the cellular damage, these accumulate despite the weekend recovery attempts. You're operating on a false promise. Every weekday of sleep debt creates deficits that weekend sleep can't fully repair. You're in chronic deficit, mistaking brief respite for recovery. And by the time you realize the debt is unpayable, the damage is already done. Your brain has aged prematurely. Your health has degraded, and you can't get those years of poor sleep back. 80 facts revealed. You've been here in the darkness for so long now. More than an hour has passed, maybe more. Time has become fluid, hasn't it? Your consciousness has been flickering like a candle in the wind. Sometimes present, sometimes absent, sometimes somewhere in between. We're approaching the final stretch. 20 more facts and then release, but there's no hurry. Sleep has already half claimed you. These last truths will find you whether you're listening or dreaming. Fact 81. The phenomenon of dream residue. Dreams leave emotional residue that affects your waking mood. You wake up anxious without knowing why. It's because you had an anxious dream you don't remember. You feel sad, angry, unsettled, all from dreams that evaporated upon waking. What's dark about this is that you're being emotionally manipulated by experiences you can't recall. Your mood is shaped by forgotten narratives. You start your day carrying feelings that have no conscious source, no rational explanation. You search for reasons to justify the emotion, and you find them, even if they're not the real cause. Your waking mind creates false explanations for feelings that came from dreams. You're living in the shadow of forgotten nightmares, and you don't even know it. Fact 82. Sleep deprivation's hallucinations. Stay awake long enough and you start hallucinating. After about 3 days without sleep, visual and auditory hallucinations become common. Your brain, desperate for the dream state it's been denied, begins dreaming while you're still awake. What's terrifying is that these aren't gentle visions. They're often disturbing, paranoid, frightening. Shadow figures, whispers, movements in peripheral vision. Your waking consciousness merges with dream consciousness, creating a hybrid state where you can't trust your perceptions. And unlike dreams, where you wake up and realize it wasn't real, these hallucinations happen while you're awake. The boundary between reality and illusion collapses. You become unreliable to yourself. Fact 83. The sleeping brain's problem-solving paradox. Your sleeping brain can solve problems your waking brain cannot. The phrase "sleep on it" has scientific merit. Sleep enhances creative problem-solving and insight. But here's the dark paradox. Your sleeping brain is smarter than your waking brain, yet you have no conscious access to its processes. The solutions arrive as intuition, sudden knowing, without showing their work. What's unsettling is that you contain intelligence you cannot access while conscious. Your best thinking happens when you aren't there to witness it. The most capable version of your mind only operates when your conscious self is offline. You're intellectually inferior to your own unconscious, and you'll never be able to observe it working. Fact 84. Night shift workers' permanent damage. People who work night shifts long-term suffer permanent health consequences that persist even after returning to normal schedules. Increased cancer risk, metabolic disorders, cognitive decline. These don't reverse when you stop working nights. What's dark is that you can make a decision for economic reasons, taking a night shift job to support your family, and create irreversible biological damage. Your body never fully forgives the violation of its circadian rhythm. Even years later, even after you've returned to normal sleep patterns, the scars remain. The damage is written into your cells. Every night shift you worked subtracted time from your life expectancy, and you can never get it back. Fact 85. Dream emotions intensity mismatch. Emotions in dreams are often more intense than the dream content warrants. You have a mild dream about being late for a bus and wake up with overwhelming anxiety. You dream something vaguely pleasant and wake up euphoric. What's unsettling is the disconnect between cause and effect. Your emotional system operates independently of narrative logic while you sleep. It generates feelings first, then your dream creates scenarios to justify them. This is backward from waking life, where events cause emotions. In dreams, emotions create events, and this reveals something dark. Your waking life might work the same way. Maybe you feel anxious first, then your mind creates reasons to justify the anxiety. Maybe emotions are primary and explanations are always secondary, both awake and asleep. Fact 86. The isolation of dream experience. You can describe a dream, but you can never actually share the experience of it. Dreams are the most isolated form of consciousness that exists, even more than thoughts or feelings, which can be partially shared through language. Dreams are locked inside individual minds. What's lonely about this is the implication. You spend a third of your life in experiences that are completely unshareable. No matter how close you are to someone, no matter how much you love them, you can never let them into your dream world. And they can never let you into theirs. There's a fundamental loneliness built into the architecture of consciousness. Every night, you go somewhere nobody can follow. Fact 87. Sleep's role in memory reconsolidation. Every time you remember something, the memory changes, and sleep is when many of these changes are consolidated. Your brain doesn't just store memories during sleep, it rewrites them. It emphasizes certain details, diminishes others, creates connections between previously separate memories. What's dark is that this means your past is being actively edited every night. You're not preserving memories during sleep, you're transforming them. The story of your life is being rewritten, chapter by chapter, night by night, and you have no control over the edits. Your autobiography is a collaborative fiction between your waking experiences and your sleeping brain's creative reinterpretations. The past you remember isn't the past you lived. Fact 88. The horror of sleep paralysis recurrence. Once you've experienced sleep paralysis, you're more likely to experience it again. The fear of it happening can trigger anxiety around sleep, which makes it more likely to occur. You become trapped in a cycle where the memory of paralysis creates conditions for more paralysis. What's psychologically cruel is that the trauma is self-perpetuating. You can't just forget it happened and move on. The fear remains, lurking at the edge of every sleep attempt. You go to bed wondering if tonight is the night it happens again, and that anxiety itself increases the likelihood. You're haunted not just by the paralysis, but by the possibility of paralysis. Sleep becomes a risk rather than a refuge. Fact 89. Sleepwalking's complex actions. Sleepwalkers don't just wander. They've cooked entire meals, sent emails, rearranged furniture, even driven cars, all while completely asleep. What's disturbing is how competent they can be. They navigate obstacles, use tools, complete multi-step tasks. This reveals that consciousness isn't necessary for complex behavior. Your body can operate at a high level without you being present. What makes you isn't required for your body to function in sophisticated ways. The conscious self is less essential than you believe. You're not the driver. You're a passenger who sometimes gets to make suggestions. And when you're asleep, the vehicle continues without you, often performing perfectly well in your absence. Fact 90. The permanence of trauma dreams. Traumatic events create dreams that can last for decades. PTSD sufferers report having the same trauma nightmare for 50 years or more. The dream doesn't fade, doesn't transform, doesn't heal. It remains frozen, replaying the worst moment of their life over and over. What's dark is the permanence of it. You can do therapy, can process the trauma consciously, can move forward in your waking life. And still the dream returns. Your sleeping brain hasn't forgiven. It hasn't healed. It's still trapped in that moment, and it drags you back there night after night. Your unconscious holds grudges your conscious mind has released, and there's nothing you can do to make it let go. 90 facts. You've been in this darkness for an hour and a half now. Your consciousness has become a thin thread, barely holding you to waking awareness. These facts have washed over you like waves, some remembered, most forgotten, all of them settling into the deeper layers of understanding that don't require conscious thought. Just 10 more facts remain, 10 more truths about the strange territory of sleep and dreams. And then, release, then, finally, rest. Fact 91. The phenomenon of pre-sleep myoclonic jerks. Those sudden muscle jerks as you fall asleep aren't just random. They're called myoclonic jerks, and one theory suggests they're your brain's way of testing whether you're still alive. As your breathing slows and your muscles relax, your brain stem sends out an alarm signal, triggering a full-body jerk to confirm the system is still responsive. What's dark about this is the implication. Every night, as you drift towards sleep, your own brain checks to see if you're dying. The transition to sleep resembles death closely enough that your nervous system needs reassurance. That moment between waking and sleeping, your brain treats it as potentially fatal, checking one last time that you haven't crossed over permanently. Sleep is a small death, and your body knows it. Fact 92. Dream characters' awareness. In some dreams, characters seem to know they're in a dream. They acknowledge the dream state, comment on its strangeness, or even seem aware that you're the dreamer. What's deeply unsettling is what this means. You're creating entities that possess meta-awareness about their own fictional nature. Your unconscious mind is generating characters sophisticated enough to be self-aware, aware of their context, aware of you. This suggests levels of intelligence and complexity in your unconscious that exceed your conscious understanding. You're not just dreaming people. You're dreaming conscious beings who know they're dreamed. And when you wake up, they vanish. You're creating and destroying complex consciousness every single night. Fact 93. The link between sleep position and nightmares. Sleeping on your back increases the likelihood of nightmares and sleep paralysis. The position compresses your airways slightly, affects breathing, and changes the physiology of sleep. What's dark is that something as simple as how you lie down can determine whether you spend the night in terror. Your body's position in space influences the content of your unconscious mind. The nightmare isn't coming from your psyche. It's coming from your spine, your breathing, your physical form. The boundary between body and mind collapses. Your flesh creates your fears, and you might spend years having recurring nightmares simply because you prefer to sleep on your back. Fact 94. The rapid forgetting of sleep itself. You don't just forget dreams, you forget being asleep. You have no memory of the hours you spent unconscious. You remember going to bed and waking up, but the vast middle, it's gone. What's existentially disturbing is that you lose hours every night to a void you can't remember. Time passes, but you don't experience its passage. It's as close to non-existence as you can get while alive. And this happens every single night. Decades of your life spent in a state you can't recall. You're practicing for death every night. Complete obliteration of experience, complete absence of memory. And in the morning, you're surprised by how much time has passed. Where did you go? You were nowhere. You were nothing. And you'll return there tonight. Fact 95. Dream incorporation of physical pain. If you're sleeping in an uncomfortable position, pain signals reach your dreaming brain. But instead of waking you, your mind weaves the pain into the dream narrative. A twisted arm becomes being bound by ropes. A full bladder becomes searching desperately for a bathroom. What's dark is how dedicated your sleeping brain is to keeping you asleep, even at the cost of your comfort. It will create elaborate false scenarios rather than wake you to fix a simple problem. Your unconscious prioritizes unconsciousness over everything. It will let you suffer in your sleep, translating real discomfort into dream torment just to avoid interrupting your rest. Pain is preferable to waking, and you accept this trade every night. Fact 96. The phenomenon of shared sleep paralysis. Rarely, two people sleeping in the same room report experiencing sleep paralysis simultaneously, seeing the same hallucinations, the same shadow figure, the same presence. There's no scientific explanation for this. It shouldn't be possible for two separate brains to generate identical hallucinations at the same moment. What's haunting is the possibility it raises. Maybe sleep paralysis hallucinations aren't entirely internal. Maybe there's something about the state that opens perception too. Something else. Or maybe it's proof of how deeply environmental cues and cultural conditioning shape even our most private neurological experiences. Either explanation is unsettling. Either the hallucinations are real in some sense we don't understand, or two people can have their brains hijacked by the same template simultaneously. Fact 97. The circadian misalignment crisis. Teenagers' circadian rhythms naturally shift later during puberty. Their brains aren't ready to sleep until late at night and aren't ready to wake until late morning. But schools start early, forcing them awake during their biological night. What's dark is that we're chronically sleep-depriving an entire generation by design. We know this damages their developing brains, impairs their learning, increases depression and anxiety. And we do it anyway. For decades, science has shown that early school start times harm adolescent health and learning. But we continue forcing teenagers into circadian misalignment 5 days a week. We're sacrificing their well-being to scheduling convenience. We're knowingly damaging young brains because changing the system is too inconvenient. Fact 98. Dreams of the unborn. Fetuses dream. REM sleep appears in the third trimester, but what do they dream about? They've never seen anything, never experienced the waking world. Their dreams can't contain images or memories. What are they experiencing in there? Some researchers suggest they're dreaming pure sensation. Sound, touch, movement, emotion without narrative or imagery. What's haunting is the thought of consciousness before experience. A mind dreaming without content. Pure awareness churning in darkness. Before you were born, before you saw light or heard your mother's voice clearly, you were already dreaming, already experiencing some kind of consciousness, and you'll never remember it. Your first dreams are lost before your first memory. Fact 99. The final dream before death. Many people report that dying individuals have particularly vivid dreams in their final nights. Often these dreams are peaceful, involving deceased loved ones or journeys to beautiful places. Sometimes the dying person will speak about these dreams with unusual clarity and peace. What's dark isn't the dreams themselves. It's the question they raise. Are these dreams the brain's final act of mercy, creating comfort as systems shut down? Or are they something else? A glimpse of whatever comes next? We'll never know. Every person who's had these final dreams has crossed over without being able to tell us what they meant. The last dreams are the most vivid, the most meaningful, and the most permanently unknowable. The answer dies with the dreamer. Fact 100. The paradox of sleep knowledge. And finally, this. You've learned 100 facts about sleep and dreams. You understand more about the darkness of unconsciousness than when you began. But here's the final dark truth. Knowing these facts won't change what happens when you sleep. You'll still forget your dreams. You'll still spend a third of your life unconscious. You'll still experience sleep paralysis, nightmares, the strange phenomena of the sleeping mind. Knowledge doesn't grant you control over sleep. You're not more prepared. You're just more aware of your helplessness. Every night you must surrender to a process you don't control, visiting a realm you won't remember, becoming a self you can't access while conscious. Sleep remains mysterious despite understanding. You know what happens, but you still can't change it. And tonight, you'll close your eyes and enter the darkness anyway, carrying all this knowledge into the very oblivion it describes. 100 facts, 100 shadows of sleep and dreams explored. You came here to fall asleep, to let these dark truths carry you into the night. And perhaps you've already gone, drifted away somewhere between fact 60 and fact 80, crossing over into the very state we've been describing. Or perhaps you're still here, consciousness hanging by a thread, listening to these final words. Sleep is dark, it's vulnerable, it's strange. It's filled with terrors and mysteries we'll never fully understand. But it's also necessary, beautiful. The place where your brain heals itself, where memories solidify, where problems solve themselves, where you practice being nothing so you can wake up and be something again. Every night is an act of faith. You lie down, close your eyes, and trust that you'll return in the morning, that the paralysis will release, that the nightmares will end, that consciousness will come back, and it almost always does. These 100 facts aren't meant to frighten you away from sleep. They're meant to honor the magnitude of what you do every night, the courage it takes to surrender, the trust you place in your own brain to carry you through the darkness and bring you back to light. So let go now. Let the facts dissolve like dreams at dawn. Let your breathing slow, your thoughts scatter, your body sink into stillness. The darkness isn't your enemy, it's your resting place. And you've earned your rest. Sleep well, dream deep, and know that the strange territory you're entering, you're not alone there. Humanity has been wandering these same shadows since consciousness began. Let sleep take you. Let the night hold you. And tomorrow you'll wake.